You should be getting a click on your computer saying it's being recorded.
Got that?
Okay, welcome everyone. I'm so glad you were able to join us today. We've got a special guest with us today, two special guests. We've got a longtime producer, asset marketing system, Joe Duffy. Those of you who've been around a while, you know Joe. Joe's been an integral part of the success of asset marketing systems for quite a while. It's got a great practice there in Cincinnati, Ohio area, Kentucky. We're joined not just by Joe, but Jim Blair. Now, Joe introduced me to Jim Blair and his partner, Mark Kiner, some years ago. They are the founders of the National Social Security Advisor Certificate Program. Joe and I both went through that program. I'm a certificate holder, as is Joe. And so what we thought we'd do is we invite Jim to come on, and Joe and Jim are going to have a little bit of a discussion about Social Security and the trustees reports, specifically the one that came out 3 weeks ago, and where maybe the future of Social Security is. So Joe Duffy, thank you so much for being here. Jim Blair, thanks for being with us. Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, well, I just want to take a minute and kind of tell you a little bit about Jim Blair. Like you said, I met Jim and his partner, Mark Kiner, through their program, the NSSA program. Jim is, as far as I'm concerned, he's basically as close as you're going to get to Moses coming down from the mountain with the tablets on Social Security. Jim worked for Social Security for over 35 years, district manager for Piqua, Ohio. When it comes to Social Security, Jim's the man. So just thought it would be kind of interesting for Jim to talk a little bit. Jim, we know you don't probably have your crystal ball with you today. You probably forgot that and left that at home. But you know, if you did and you had to make your best guess of what's going to happen to Social Security, like Sam talked about the trustee report that came out, not very flattering. Matter of fact, it can get people pretty worried about what Social Security is going to look like in the future. I'd like you to just talk a little bit from your experience, from your viewpoint. What do you think is going to happen with Social Security going forward?
Sure. And first, I'll point out that if you look at the trustees report, it is all gloom and doom. We've been here before. We were here in the late 70s, and Social Security's going broke. People were going to lose their benefits. And at that point, Congress and the president were able to get together and make the changes they needed to make. A lot of those changes we're still seeing today, the increase in the full retirement age being a big one. But they did make the changes, and they thought at that time the program would be solvent through for the next 75 plus years. Didn't quite work out that way, but we're looking at it again. My hope, and I really believe that eventually Congress and the president will get together. May not be this Congress, may not be this president, but before things really head south for Social Security, I believe they'll get together and make the changes they need to make. There's some changes that need to be made and will be made, I'm sure, that will definitely help make the program more solvent. And that's the important thing. The other issue I want people to understand is worst case scenario, Congress does nothing. There's still going to be people working, paying into the program, paying the Social Security taxes. That's what they use to pay benefits. We'll see a reduction in benefits, maybe about up to 25%, which is a pretty good cut. Nobody wants to see that. But there's still money coming in. People are still going to be receiving benefits, and we'll have to wait and see how that works out. I don't expect that to happen, but still benefits will be paid, just not at the level that we expect them.
Right. So, but out of all those areas, I think you're right. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball either, but I think you're right about the fact that, the reduction of benefits isn't going to be a politically appealing thing, and raising payroll taxes isn't going to be a politically appealing thing, but maybe it'll happen, piece by piece. Like you say, when they change the age and from 65 to 67, knocked out 2 years, they didn't have to pay benefits. And it's not like you get the 2 years back on the back end. There's 2 years of saved benefits that the government didn't have to pay out. Talk a little bit too, Jim, about the recent COLA adjustment, what they're expecting to pay out.
That one's looking pretty big compared to what we've seen in the past. We're looking at about 6%. Now they were talking about 6.2, then they knocked it down to maybe 5.9, but still somewhere around that 6%. We will know sometime in October what that will be. But that's if it's 6%, that's the largest it's been since 1982. The closest we'll get to that was 2008. It was 5.8, and we all know what happened after 2008. That's when the housing market crashed. We saw a couple of years of no increase, but in 2021, we're looking at probably a 6% cost of living increase. That would be effective with people's benefit payments in January. Any cost of living will be effective December of 2021. We'll see that in the January checks. But because of this increase, then it's going to make a big difference in people's checks. However, and what we don't know yet that goes along with that, what is the increase in the Medicare premium going to be? We know that's coming right along behind it, and it won't take all of it, but it'll take a nice chunk of it. But we're still looking at about 6%. So cost of living is coming. We'll have to wait and see what that is. That will affect everybody. And just so people know, even if you're not taking benefits, if you're age 62 or older, that factors in to your monthly benefit amount. So if you're looking at an old benefit statement, you can maybe add 6% to that and see what your monthly benefit would be.
Perfect. Sam, any questions on that subject?
No, I think you hit the ball on, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I'm a mathematician, and we had this conversation just before we got on the air. I'm a mathematician, and I hear what you're saying in the 70s that we were here once before. The thing that causes me to say, like everybody says, this time is different, is that we've had substantial things that have gotten us to this point. Low childbirth rate in the US over the last 25 years, low legal immigration, other people coming in, reduced percentage of the workforce actually contributing to Social Security. And the number that just throws me is that in the 2020 Trustees report, they said that the first year deficit spending will be this year, and they expected a $12.7 billion deficit. In this 2021 Trustees report, they reiterated the first deficit year is this year, but their deficit is $147 billion. With COVID, with a COLA going up, with less people paying into the payroll, that makes me wonder, what in the world can they do other than increasing the debt load and funding Social Security on a deficit basis? What else can they do short term to make sure that even with their deficit spending of $150 billion a year, that they can continue those payments and grandfather the existing recipients to where their benefits aren't cut? And I'm asking, I don't know the answer, but I'm a mathematician, I'm not a magician. I know that when it comes to politics and charitable organizations, that math is thrown out the window, somehow it works, but it does make me nervous.
When you really think about it, Social Security is no different than Sam and Debbie's checking account or Joe and Beth's checking account. You know, if you're putting in X number of dollars and you're taking out of the account Y number of dollars, listen, if Y gets to be zero, there's only a couple things you can do: stop taking it out, or accelerate the rate in which you're putting it in.
Yeah.
And the reduction in benefits is one thing, but raising the payroll tax, I mean, yeah, maybe that may seem a little more palatable because people won't see it as much.
Yeah.
If I raise your payroll tax 0.5%, who notices it on their paycheck? That'd probably be the easiest thing to do, politically speaking. And let's face it, the people that are going to make these decisions are thinking more about their future than they're thinking about our future.
Yeah.
And so the things that become more palatable for them are probably the things that will happen.
Yeah.
Well, as far as short term is concerned, and you mentioned this, Sam, the Social Security Administration does have $2.9 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds. So they have access to money that they can put in their checking account and make sure that full benefits are being paid. And they expect that $2.9 trillion should last through about the dates kind of moved a little bit, 2033, 2034. That being said, that's not that far away,
Yeah,
but they do have the 2.9 trillion. The discussion could be, where's the government going to get the 2.9 trillion to pay for the treasury bonds? But that's not Social Security's issue. That's the Treasury's issue. So they do have access to that. We expect full benefits to be paid through 2033, 2034. A couple of things that they're talking about. They're a little nervous about raising the payroll tax because that does affect everybody, not only your higher earners, but the lower earners. And they don't like to increase the taxes on the lower earners. It puts a little more of a burden on them. But they're looking at maybe raising, first of all, the full retirement age.
yeah,
We know that people that turn 62 in 2022, their full retirement age is age 67, and that's right now where it caps out.
right.
I would probably bet, I bet all of Joe's money that they're going to raise it to age 70. So at some point, they're going to raise the full retirement age. Now, it took 22 years to move it from age 65 to 67. I expect something similar to move it to age 70. So people maybe 55 or older, they're probably still looking at maybe age 67 or a little less for their full retirement age. It's people in their 20s, 30s, and maybe 40s who are going to be looking at a higher full retirement age. The other side of that is they're probably going to raise the cap that you pay the Social Security tax on. This year, it's 142,800. You stop paying the Social Security tax.
Yeah.
They feel that if they could raise that to around 240, 250,000, those two things alone would pretty much resolve the deficit, maybe take care of about 93, 94% of it. They're also talking about maybe leaving the cap where it's at 142.8, and then for folks who earn over, say, 400,000, it kicks back in again, and they'll start taxing those people.
Yeah.
Now that also brings us to what scares a lot of people, and that's means testing.
Yes.
So what's going to happen then when they compute the benefits? Well, I don't know if everybody's aware of the fact that the lower earners get a better percentage return of Social Security benefits versus the higher earners.
Yeah.
And not to get too far in the weeds, but they take your average wage over a 35-year period of time, and that's how they compute your benefit. Well, they're talking about either capping that average wage when they do the computation, or changing the way the benefits are computed so that people who are lower earners still get the same amount. People that are higher earners are going to get less. I guess the good news is everybody still gets something. They're not saying, well, sorry, if you make this amount of money, thanks for paying in, but we're not going to pay you a benefit. But they are looking at maybe making that changes so you get less of a return on your taxes that you paid than you do now. Of course, when does that ever happen that you get a bad return on your taxes? But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think those are some real possibilities.
Awesome. Joe, you got any more questions?
No more questions as far as Social Security itself. I think we probably ought to just briefly talk about what kind of impact this is going to have going forward on our client presentations, our client discussions. Like I said, I was telling Sam earlier, Jim, about some clients I'm working with right now that, they're projecting to receive $50,000 of Social Security benefits. They're projecting to want to live $100,000 lifestyle. Well, I mean, if the numbers hold out that they're talking about, and we only get 76 or 75% of Social Security benefits, now their 50,000 is 35,000, and now their IRA withdrawals aren't 50,000, they're 70. So, and then what happens when we're pulling more out of our IRAs, and we just increase taxation on Social Security. So, I mean, there's just so many ramifications and impacts that need to be discussed. People need to be planning for the future. And making the adjustments now. Let's face it, we all know the greatest friend we have in making changes is time.
Yeah.
And the sooner we make these changes, the less impact it may have on an annual basis.
In the American College did a presentation probably about a year ago after the 2020 report came out, and they basically said there's three different groups that need to look at this from three different perspectives. The first group is that group that is already receiving Social Security. They're in Social Security, they're receiving Social Security, their perspective, and Jim, it sounds like yours is as well, that typically if you're receiving, you're probably going to be grandfathered and you won't have the negative impact if the benefits are cut. Would you agree with that, Jim?
I agree with that. Generally, they try not to cut for folks who are receiving.
Yep. The second group is that group that's 5 to 10 years away from retirement and planning on that Social Security. If we take the perspective that the money's going to be there, that's great, but it may make sense to have a plan B. If indeed they do cut for those who go in, what's your plan B? How are you gonna fill, like Joe said, how are you gonna fill that extra gap, that extra $15,000 in his scenario? So that's the second group, that 5, 10, 12, 15 years away from retirement. And the third group is, the young guy who's just in the workforce, working away. The advice to him is keep your head down, keep working, start recognizing that Social Security was originally designed to pull seniors out of poverty and probably shouldn't be considered for that group to be a major component of your retirement program. And you probably ought to start being a little bit more diligent in funding your own retirement plan going forward. So those are the three groups. Would you agree with that synopsis?
I agree 100% with that. The younger folks might want to look at Social Security and when they're planning their retirement as if it won't be there. It will be, I'm sure it will, but they should plan as if it won't so that they'll have enough money in retirement through their savings and investments that the Social Security will be icing on the cake and they'll just have that much more.
Yeah.
But it's the folks I'm concerned about are the middle ones you were talking about. And they're the ones that already have some time has passed and they're looking at their retirement now and what are we going to do? And while I don't always subscribe to everybody should wait till age 70 to start your benefit, I do like to encourage people to wait as long as possible.
Yeah.
Don't retire at 62 if you think that it's going to be an issue. Don't start taking, or at least start taking your Social Security. You want to delay. I do like full retirement age a lot more than I do age 62. And if we look at life expectancies, the whole theory behind benefits at 62 being reduced, you get your full benefit at your full retirement age, and then even more if you wait till age 70. Originally, you were going to receive the same amount of money over your lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, people are living a lot longer. Even the last year's events aside, people are living a lot longer, and those who take benefits at age 62 are going to receive a lot less money over time than the people who delay their benefit. Now, granted, I know supposedly the later years are their nursing home years. You don't travel as much, you don't need as much money, but you still have expenses and you're still going to need your Social Security. It is a lifetime benefit. That's the good news. Yeah. You're going to receive it for the rest of your life. It also carries over, and people need to understand this too, to a survivor benefit.
Yes.
If your spouse is going to step into your shoes when you pass and receive your Social Security, the earlier you take those benefits, the less they're going to receive. Yep. And it's not just how long you're going to receive it then, but how long you and or your spouse will receive those benefits.
Yep. Delaying
as long as possible. Hey, nothing wrong with working. You probably can't tell from my youthful face that I just recently turned 71. So, and I'm still working. You have to have something to do.
That's right.
That's right. Daytime TV is meant to punish people that don't work. So you have to do something. And so it's not so bad waiting, but it's real important. Start it as late as possible.
Well, that's a great segue into, we can't bring you on this show, and at least Joe and I sing the accolades of the program that you and Mark have put together, the National Social Security Advisor Program. If you are an advisor who wants to know about Social Security, wants to have a competence level and a confidence in your competence level that is up here when it comes to Social Security, when you're talking to people about it, then I encourage you to participate, to go online and go to National Social Security Advisor. And enroll in their program, take their course, become a certificate holder, and make sure that you're keeping up with what is going on with Social Security. Mark and Jim do a great job of disseminating what the changes are, what to look out for, and further educating. Like Jim said, it's not everybody wait till 70 anymore. It's not everybody claim at 62. Everybody has their own individual strategy that they should be using. Joe, give me a couple comments about National Social Security Advisor and how it's helped you.
Oh, I mean, again, I was introduced to the whole subject, of when we started with asset marketing. Asset marketing is, they're always been on the forefront of training on, getting advisors prepared to have these discussions. We were out in San Diego. They were kind of rolling out the new Social Security puzzle presentation, and I looked at you and said, "Well, this is all great and sounds great, but how are you going to have a discussion about something you don't know anything about?" I'm not comfortable with that. Never have been. I want to know what the questions are before they're asked. Yeah. And so I reached out to another advisor that I had started the business with now 30 years earlier, and asked them, "What do you do when you have clients that have questions about Social Security? Who do you send them to, or who do you bring in?" He said, "Mark Kiner and Jim Blair." So that's how I got in contact with them. I got involved in their NSSA program, and I tell you, it's a godsend. You have to have the tools to do the job, and part of these tools, you got to be able to answer these questions. When should I retire? When should I take Social Security? A lot of people think those numbers should be the same. Not necessarily. Yeah. Should I do Roth conversions? And again, as I'm thinking, as Jim's speaking about, all these possible changes to Social Security, it just makes me think again, that young group, these are the discussions we should be having. We should tell them, you need to have as much income off the tax radar as possible. Yeah. If you can build tax-free income for retirement, that's what you need to be doing. Put some money into Roth. That middle group, think about Roth conversions. Pay some tax now. Anybody who thinks that taxes aren't on sale right now are fooling themselves. Taxes aren't going down, they're going up. They have to, because there's bills to be paid. Yep. So, again, you got to have the tools to be able to have these discussions, and the NSSA program has just been vital. I mean, absolutely vital to have these discussions.
Jim, when this recording goes out, I'll make absolutely certain that your contact information and a link to your website is on there, so the advisors that are listening to this know who to turn to get the education that they need. I like Joe, when we rolled out Social Security Puzzle, I actually had an advisor who was doing Social Security presentations, and they were getting some appointments, had some questions, were calling me about the questions. Her response was, or her comment was, "I guess I need to know a little bit about this when I do these presentations." And my answer was, yeah, if you're going to be giving a presentation to the general public, you better know or have a fairly firm grasp about the content that you're presenting. And your program allows individuals to have that firm grasp and confidence in that grasp to the extent that no other program that I've seen. So thanks for that.
Yeah, because they are going to ask you questions, and they're going to ask you questions that are a little off the wall because they all have their own situation and they're trying to sneak that in there. And even if you don't know the answer, you can get them the answer.
Yes.
And so we appreciate that, definitely.
Jim, thanks for being with us. Joe, thanks for hosting this. I appreciate it.
I have one final comment to make. When I first enrolled in the program, one of the things that they said that you get as part of the NSSA designation is the availability to call them with any questions. Jim, have I taken advantage of that?
Maybe once or twice. Yeah.
Maybe once or twice a week or month.
Yeah.
Jim always answers. He's always there to answer the phone.
I'll just say that when you call, it shows up with your name. So I'm not saying you call so much that my phone recognizes you, but it does.
And that's Jim, I appreciate all your help.
Oh, well, glad to do that. And, it's what I know, so I'm happy to do it. But, we definitely appreciate you guys' support. And and anytime you want to do these things, that's fine.
Yeah, perfect, Jim. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Sam.
You bet.
You're welcome. You guys have a good one.
You too.
See ya. Have a good
Bye.
day.